Maybe I got fooled. Maybe they come back. I don't know. But at least I want to thank the Celtics for their transparency. If they do win a title this year, no chance at a dynasty. They're just too weird. This is the strangest team. They classify as almost a bad team at home in the playoffs. Unheard of. Tatum, he's their best player, but Al Horford shot 12 threes. I don't know if they're well coached. What actually is their offense? Let's be honest. Pacers blew it. 21 turnovers, 2 ugly ones late, but Jason Tatum did not have a field goal.
The Pacers did not blow it. Did they make mistakes? Without a doubt. Without a doubt. Look at the free throw discrepancy. Was insane. Look at the foul that was not called on Jaylen Brown that then sent him to the line to score 2 free throws that I think either tied it or put them ahead, which was an absolute disgrace. An absolute disgrace, because they even were able to watch the replay of it. I could understand in real time you not getting it right, but then when it goes to review and you watch the replay, it's insane. JJ Redick didn't even know what to say. He was literally grabbing the jersey of a Pacers player. That's an automatic foul. It's an automatic foul. It's one of the main ways that you're taught when you have to foul someone on purpose, to send them to the line if it's at the end of the game and you need to send someone to the free throw line. You just grab the jersey. All you do is just grab it. Just grab the littlest bit. Automatic foul. So that he was holding it, and then even Doris was like, well, maybe it was because so-and-so was holding his arm, and JJ was like, he was holding his jersey for a long time. You could tell, especially once they fired Van Gundy and Mark Jackson, that the commentators these days try to be a little bit more, let's say, pro-NBA, right? And that was the problem with Van Gundy and Mark Jackson. They kept saying, this is ridiculous. How is this not a foul? This is ridiculous. That was a foul. And they got fired because of it. No question about it. No question. And it's frustrating because we all can see it at home. And so we want the commentators to be honest. And you could see JJ and Doris trying to walk that thin line. And I get it, right? They want to keep their jobs. They want to get paid. But to me, it just makes for a crappy product. But I just think that that's insane. And I'm not one to blame the refs because it's a whole game. And again, the Pacers obviously made mistakes down the line. No question about that. But the free throw discrepancy was insane. And it wasn't just because of style of play. Sometimes it is. Sometimes, when we looked at the free throw discrepancy between the Lakers versus the Warriors a few years ago, that made a little bit more sense because they're a more physical team. They're driving the Lakers. They're getting to the free throw line, while the Golden State Warriors shoot more threes. They play farther away from the basket. So that makes more sense. That's not exactly the case with the Pacers. Yes, the Pacers shoot a lot of jumpers as well, and mid-range as well as threes, but it's still not that extreme. It's not. They're not the Golden State Warriors. So it's just absurd. I mean, it really, really is. And then again, look no further when you see the replay. You see the replay. Even if we don't want to talk about the free throws discrepancy, that's fine. If we want to say, hey, that was just the way it goes, totally fine. Let's accept that as a truth. It's indefensible to not overturn that call with the replay. It's just indefensible. And again, you wonder why, the NBA wonders why people say things are fixed. And I'm not saying they are fixed, to be very clear. I'm not saying anything is fixed at all. But this is why people are so frustrated with the NBA. Why they feel because the Pacers got robbed back-to-back game ones. They got robbed game one against the Knicks as well. And when you see this happen, and the Pacers aren't even my team. I have no dog in this fight whatsoever. Seriously, I have nothing. But from an entertainment perspective, I just want to feel like I'm watching a game that can end appropriately, that actually there's a fair shot, a fair fight. And when you don't feel like you're getting that, I'm just like, well, why am I watching this then? I may as well be playing a video game. So it's annoying. And I used to ref, and I get it. Reffing is hard. You're not going to get every single call right. That's the reality. That's why I don't try to nickel and dime or hold people's feet to the fire in terms of officiating. It's going to happen. This was too extreme. And again, when you have access to the replay, it's indefensible. There's no excuse.
goal or an assist in the last 9 minutes of regulation. He was fine in overtime, Tatum was, but come on, it's the Spurs. It's the Pacers. They're young kids. You could tell from their turnovers they weren't quite ready for the moment. You expect them to pull back on the road in overtime a little. But in a star-driven league, Tatum not only disappoints, he just disappears. And I've been on this for 4 years. What is this offense? Where does he go? What is he thinking? To not have an assist? Forget the points. You can shoot poorly. To not have an assist in the final 9 minutes of regulation? I do think Boston, with this group, will eventually, I think, win a title. But it's a hard team to like and a hard team to figure out. They're almost the opposite of the team everybody loved, the Knicks. They don't have a lot of grit. They live on the three-pointer. They actually have a lot of talent, but you're not necessarily sure it'll show up in big moments. And their star often disappears, the opposite of Jalen Brunson. They're the opposite of the Knicks. They're just not terribly likable unless you're a Celtics fan. And here's the thing. I went into this series, and I'm thinking, well, young Pacers don't defend. But after last night, I watched them, and I think the Pacers are long. They're deep. They're healthy. They're well coached. We may have ourselves a series. And for the record, the general manager of the Celtics, Brad Stevens, he addressed two things in the offseason. So he saw the issues. One of them, he went and got Porzingis. Al Horford, defensive liability in big games. And Pascal Siakam attacked him last night. And the second thing he went is another offensive player. They got rid of Marcus Smart. They got a better offensive player with the same sort of grit in Jalen in Drew Holiday. And Holiday had his best game as a Celtic last night. He was great and necessary as Brown didn't deliver and Tatum disappeared. So Brad Stevens, who just won Executive of the Year, clearly saw what we have been talking about and seeing for a couple of years. They need more talent with size, and they clearly miss Porzingis. Pascal Siakam's going to be a problem without him. Report today he may come back for Game 4. And Drew Holiday was crucial last night. One of the things that happens during games like this, and it's sort of old school and new school. So if a team, by the way, leads by 3, and the other team has the ball with a couple seconds left. The old
they're going to talk about the whole fouling thing, which I'll make another video about that. Because that's a completely different situation now. That's like getting more into the technical analysis of what you should do in that situation. And I'll be totally honest, I love Colin Cowherd. He's my favorite one out there. Love the show. I don't care about his analysis of whether or not you're supposed to foul in that situation. He's not the person that I go to in terms of basketball, the details. You go watch JJ Redick or any of these other guys. But I understand what he's saying about the Boston Celtics. But I disagree with him in one saying they're not likable. They're very likable. Why would you ever root against Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown, Drew Holiday? Like, those are all great people that most people want to see succeed. You're rooting for DiVincenzo and Hart and Brunson, but not Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. Like, what are we talking about here? Like, if you don't like the Celtics, well, then sure, then you're not gonna like them. But there's no way. Like, if you can find a reason to root for the Knicks, then you can find a reason to root for the Celtics. So that I just wholeheartedly disagree with. I do agree with them not having an identity. When you watch the Celtics play, and also let's be very clear here. Porzingis is a huge key part of that team, and that matters. And this is where Colin is inconsistent, because Colin said for the Nuggets versus the Timberwolves series, he said that if someone's injured, that's enough for this team to lose. And he said, and I disagreed with his specific example, but he said, Murray banged his hand and his hand was hurt. That was enough for the Nuggets to lose. Conley wasn't playing, the starting point guard for the Timberwolves. That was enough for the Timberwolves to get blown out. And so when that happens, these other teams win. Well, now Porzingis is not playing. Porzingis isn't like the 8th man up. He's a very crucial part of that team. A very crucial. He's had a completely reemergence with the Celtics. So it's not exactly fair to judge the Celtics based off that when you're down a guy. What would the Nuggets look like if they didn't have Michael Porter Jr.? Because I'm not going to say Jamal Murray because that's the second guy in charge. But what would you say of Michael Porter Jr. or Aaron Gordon? The Nuggets have no chance at winning anything. None. I don't know if they're even beating the Lakers if Michael Porter Jr. is not playing or Aaron Gordon. I'm pretty confident in that. The Timberwolves aren't winning if they don't have Conley for that whole series, which we saw when he wasn't playing, or even Naz Reid, 6th man. So some teams are built in ways where they could be more resilient to injuries. Other teams are not. The margin of error is a lot smaller. And it seems like this year, especially in the NBA, the margin of error for all teams, because of the competition, seems to be pretty equal, which is why we had multiple Game 7s and quite frankly should have had a third Game 7 if it wasn't for that egregious foul by SGA against the Mavs. We can see that, yeah, a legitimate injury. I'm not saying being banged up because I disagree with that, but I would say that that's a big part. That the Celtics would obviously be looking a lot better with Porzingis. But at the same time, they don't have that identity. You can see the way how they play, how they approach the game, how they move the ball. You can see that there is legitimate scheming and approach when the Pacers were just playing against the Celtics. You could see it. I mean, it's hard to explain, but you can see the movement. You can see the cutters. You can see that it's actually not just like a freestyle basketball. The Celtics play what makes me feel like it's a lot of like street ball in a way, right? Where it's like we're just a bunch of guys. We all know how to ball, so we all know how to do certain things. We know how to play defense. We can jump into zone. We can pass. Like we've been playing with each other enough, but we're not like practicing. We're not coming up with actual game plans. We're not actually trying to do specific things like work the ball down low, or we want to make sure to do this, that, like that. You don't get that feeling. You get that feeling when you watch the Nuggets, the Timberwolves, the OKC. I think you get a little bit less of that with the Dallas Mavericks, but that's just because Luka is such a dominant player that when you have such a big dominant player, Luka's definitely more of like a James Harden type where it's like, give me the ball and I'm just going to make magic happen. And kind of same thing with Kyrie. Kyrie is also a very freestyling player where it's just like, listen, man, I'm like poetry in motion when I'm dribbling and handing the ball. So I'm gonna make everyone dizzy on the court, and then I'm gonna dish it to you for a wide open shot or a one-handed runner or something. And it's just a different style of play. And Ant does this to a degree sometimes too, because he's also growing into a big dominant player. But there definitely seems to be more of a plan. And when they were able to kind of take the lead, to take the series back from Denver Nuggets, they had more of a game plan. They were like, we got to get Rudy Gobert going. We got to work the ball down to him. We can't just ignore him offensively. That opens up the court. You don't see that same style of cerebralness for the Celtics. And that will hold them back against the better, well-coached teams. Because I think the Celtics are a great team and have great players, but they may be lacking. But again, I think it's hard to fully evaluate who they are when they're missing Porzingis. Because again, we would not be praising the Nuggets if Aaron Gordon was not playing there. We would not be praising the Timberwolves if Naz Reid or Conley were not playing. They would be struggling. And you would say the same thing. There's no ball movement. Or once they double team Jokic, like there's just, who are you going to rely on? Michael Porter Jr.? He's too streaky. And that's what you could now say similar things about the Celtics. So I think he's being a little too harsh on the Celtics by saying they're not likable or that they are just completely lost out there. I don't think that's fully accurate, but I get how when watching the game, you can perceive it that way, but I just think it needs to be unpacked a little bit more. But those are just my thoughts. I would absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about that game? Do you think that the refs really kind of dropped the ball with that one, so to speak? Or do you think, nope, the Pacers just lost it, it's on them? And what do you think about the Celtics in terms of them being a legitimate championship contender? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions, let's get in some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. and please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I would absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of, and I think we're well on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much, and see you next time.